I want to talk a little bit about my general philosophy of talent acquisition, because I think that a lot of people are talking about these huge, big concepts in TA, and where is TA going over the next several years? How do we, as talent acquisition executives and leaders, stay relevant in this changing market? I've talked to many different leaders across Silicon Valley and even outside of Silicon Valley and other countries. And the market is changing. The things that we have to do to remain competitive is changing. And however, I look at myself more as a pragmatic leader, right? I look at talent acquisition very pragmatically, very fundamentally, and I look at how do we build strong foundations. I like to repurpose an Arnold Palmer quote. I repurpose an Arnold Palmer quote that says, and I say, recruiting is deceptively simple and endlessly complex, right? You can set up the most normal talent acquisition structure, and then it is a year's worth of tweaking and seeing how it works, it doesn't work, how the people interact with each other, how the business leaders are interacting with the HR and talent acquisition leaders. It's a very, very complex environment, but it's so simple. You just go out, you find people, you hire them, you bring them to your company, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit today about the foundation, what I've done in my career, what I did at SanDisk, a little bit, but really what I've done at EMC over the past 1 year that I've been there to help put a strong foundation in place that enables strategic partnership at top levels of management. Here's some quotes for thought, right? Nothing we do is more important than hiring and developing people. At the end of the day, you bet on people, not on strategies. That's from Larry Bossidy, former chairman and CEO of Honeywell. You heard the phrase, you are what you eat. In business, you are who you hire. I did a lot of work with Jeffrey Smart and Randy Street for my previous company, SanDisk, actually implementing the hiring A-players methodology with them, which was very, very exciting. And the most important decisions in business are not what decisions, but who decisions. And of course, that's from Jim Collins, author of Good to Great. I actually went out and I talked to some of the business leaders at EMC. I actually called up a couple of the executives that I worked with at SanDisk, because I still have them on speed dial. And I called them up and I started asking some questions. And here's some of the more tasty bits of information. When I asked them, what do you want as a business leader when you're partnering with talent acquisition? Right? Hire top talent to meet my insane business objectives. These executives are just being hit with tons of stuff, tons of requirements. They're trying to build businesses. In some respects, these big companies like EMC, they have these startups, right? They have these startups inside, and they have to go from 10 million to 30 million in revenue, and they have to do it in these really short time frames. And they partner with us to help them do that, right? So when they talk about insane business objectives, they just translate that to us, right? They say, I need to meet these business objectives, and you need to find all the people to do it. Not waste my engineering resources and time on bad candidates. This was a person I met in person. They kind of rolled their eyes, or a bad hire. They're saying that a bad hire can cost between 2 to 50 times that person's base salary in expenses to a company, right? If you hire somebody bad and they're an executive, that's where you get the 50 number, right? They come in, they do a ton of damage, and then they leave. And that can be a huge, huge problem for a company. I want to know where and how to find, attract, and hire the smartest people, right? Often executives or leaders or managers are talking about hiring engineers, and they're trying to find people that do this or that branch of technology. More and more, what I'm seeing is that people, they want to hire the smartest. Google did that, right? Google did a ton of that. They don't find me a bunch of software engineers to do X, Y, Z. Find me people that are smart, right? So that executive I talked to said that. And this is my favorite one. I want someone who tells me who I should hire and absolutely knows why and is right. Damn it. Right? They want somebody who knows the business inside and out, makes a recommendation, and that recommendation is right, spot on. I always talk about the golden ticket rule, right? When you go into a new company, you have a little bit of street cred right away because you're new to the company. You go in, you recommend hires. If you do a great job, you recommend good people get hired, you get more street cred. The more times you go in and you actually don't make a good recommendation, you lose street cred, right? They want people who are right, and they don't want to waste time with people who are not really understanding the business. In a typical TA organization, talent acquisition orgs are historically reactive and transactional. I mean, that's what we're coming from, folks, right? We're coming from organizations that, yes, they're trying to be transformative, yes, they're trying to build, yes, they're trying to do great new things, but a lot of talent acquisition organizations are reactional and transactional, right? We hire the people they send us, we go to LinkedIn, we hire the people that we need to for a particular project, but we're not necessarily transforming the way the business works, the way the business thinks, or the way the business needs us to actually interact with them. The burn and churn of recruiters is common. People know what I mean about the burn and churn of recruiters. I see some nods. You have contract recruiters. That's the name of the game, right? You hire contract recruiters. The contract recruiter comes in, 3 months, boom, fill a bunch of positions, and they're out of there. Well, what does that do to the business? What does that actually do to the partnership that recruiter spent 3 years building, or 3 months, excuse me, building, right? What does that do? And then they leave, and then another recruiter picks up the recs that open up the following month. That manager is having just a burn and churn, right? Burn and churn, right? So these are the questions I was asking myself. When I joined EMC, I was hearing these same things. TA is transactional. Yeah, you do great work, but, right? I have a different recruiter every 3 months, right? These are the things I was hearing. Echoed a lot of what happened at SanDisk previous to that. But I was hearing this, and I'm like, I'm going to do something about it. Talent acquisition has become an ends to a means. Right? Tactical. We go in, we fill a bunch of recs, we leave. We're not influencing the business. We're not part of the decisions by which the business is placing talent in certain locations, right? We're filling a bunch of recs, right? I'm not saying everybody here. I'm just saying in general, this is what talent, we used to, the 1980s, we were personnel. Hiring teams don't often trust that their recruiters know what they need. They really don't, right? They go in, they say, what are you going to do? Here's some keywords for you to use. Right? And the recruiters kind of go, oh, thank you, and they write down the keywords, and then they go run those keywords through the ATS, and they run the keywords through LinkedIn, and they send out a bunch of emails, right? Recruiters are becoming more savvy. However, the impression, the feeling, the idea that the hiring manager has is still that we are a transactional organization, right? TA and hiring management, they don't create partnerships. Instead, they fall back into the cause-effect circles without ownership, right? You didn't give me candidates fast enough. I wasn't able to hire fast enough. I didn't meet my business objectives. It's your fault. Recruiter goes, you weren't available for me. You were traveling. You didn't look at my candidates. You never responded. You got back to me too late. There's this cause-effect relationship that goes on in talent acquisition organizations that actually empowers nobody, right? It empowers nobody, right? Typical recruiters don't have time to become talent partners, right? How many people here have recruiters in their organizations who are just running around chasing recs, chasing offers, chasing opening this, opening that, getting the approvals? Just by show of hands. Okay, either everybody's lying or it's too early in the morning, right? But really, I saw a fair number of hands here, right? Recruiters are running around. They just don't have time to become talent partners. So how do we as executives, as leaders, empower our talent acquisition teams? So becoming a strategic talent partner, this is really what I wanted to do at EMC. This is what I want, and there was a lot of it there. I wouldn't have joined the company if it was a hot mess. Actually, it was actually a pretty good structure was in place when I joined EMC. However, becoming a strategic talent partner was something that we hadn't really achieved yet. And so I've spent the past year building this. And partnership is a two-way street. Share what works, what doesn't, and hold both sides accountable. That's so basic, right? That's deceptively simple and endlessly complex. It's hold both sides accountable. How do you do that, right? How do you actually create an accountability model that allows people to hold both the recruiters, the talent acquisition folks, and the business accountable to results? Focus on providing a great user experience infused with constant communication. At the end of the day, talent acquisition is a customer service organization, right? We are providing a service to the business. Now, we're a partner with them. We can become a strategic partner with them. However, we are a customer service organization because we are there. We're overhead, right? In a lot of respects, we're not selling a bunch of product. We're not designing. We're hiring the designers, but we're not designing, right? So we have to really show our value, and we have to have constant communication with our top leadership. Strike a balance between customization and scalability. How often are recruiters trying to customize all the things that we're doing in the organization to fit a particular leader? So there's that balance that we need to strike as talent acquisition executives and leaders between customizing and scaling. Because I will tell you, when I went from SanDisk with 6,000 employees to EMC, 60,000 employees, scale was huge. And a lot of the tenements, the things that I did at SanDisk just really didn't apply to EMC. I had to operate a little differently in order for me to actually be able to partner in a way that was relevant to this huge company. Share the bigger picture. Stress things like university hiring, diversity hiring, rotation programs. These are just a few little things, but those are things that a lot of organizations don't think about in depth. Yes, we hire university talent. Yes, we go to these schools. Yes, we do these things. Do you actually have a strategic university program, right, where you are going to schools that are aligned to your business and then understanding what those schools can provide, putting in relationships with those schools, really a small number of schools, so you can go deep with those organizations and that school can feed you talent, and then that talent becomes the next generation of leadership at your company. If you're not doing that, then you're just going to universities and trying to hire a bunch of college kids. And I can say college kids now because I'm slightly color assisted, so I'm good. Okay? Rotation programs, things like that, those are all the fun things that we as talent acquisition leaders and executives do. However, we don't often do them well. Right? So how do we build an organization that actually allows for this to happen? Expect recruiters to become talent partners. You don't just build the model and say, hopefully it'll happen. If you build it, they will come, right? It doesn't work that way. You have to expect your recruiters to become talent partners. You have to explain what that means. You have to empower them. You have to remove the roadblocks. You have to give data. You have to help them understand what the cadence of partnership looks like, because a lot of recruiters don't understand this. A lot of recruiters are stuck in their day-to-day. And if you want them to grow in the organization and become leaders, right, whether they're going to be your next recruiting manager, your team leads, your next director of TA, whatever, you have to empower them so they can grow. Bring relevant data to every conversation. Data is very powerful. It doesn't have to be crazy regression analysis data. It has to be data that is meaningful to the organization. And then that information becomes powerful to that executive who sees that you are trying to understand what they do, what's important to them, and how you're going to help them grow. To build a strategic talent acquisition organization, start with a strong foundation. I'm a pragmatic person. Strategies and high-level thinking is wonderful. However, a foundation is hugely important because if you build a really awesome, amazing strategic house on sand, it's not really going to stand very well. And so one of the things I did when I joined EMC is I took a lot of the great things that they were doing, but I said we need to really put in an absolutely solid foundation for us to be able to build a strategic partnership organization. So the model, BAM, that's what it's called. It is called Business Alignment Account Management. Simple. We align to the business and we provide top quality account management. What does that look like? BAM leads, I call them BAM leads, BAM, and I feel like Emerald of the cook, right? Are the primary point of contact for HR business partners and assigned global executive leaders. They are also the first point of escalation. It's a good day when I'm not getting escalation calls. It is a good day when my leaders, the people that I have in my organization, are empowered to actually go out and solve the business's problems. But you have to have the right people, right? You can't just throw recruiters at this and expect it to work well, right? So the BAM leaders are the primary point of contact for HR business partners. That's new to me. Like I knew all of my business partners at SanDisk, and at smaller companies, it gets a little more intimate, right? You're going to, you as a business executive are going to know all the business. There are so many HR people running around, right, at EMC. I can't possibly have a one-on-one with every one of them, right? It's just too many. So I had to empower my team to be able to do those conversations and actually be able to make adjustments as needed. BAM leads are ultimately responsible for the hiring success in their assigned orgs by identifying and overcoming roadblocks. I mean, it's simple, right? For assigned organizations. Capitalize on opportunity, then best utilize the teams. So BAM leads actually have teams behind them, right? They're not managers. They could be. They could grow into that. But they're by design not managers, right? But they actually have teams behind them. They innovate and executing creative ways to hire top talent. I'm expecting them to innovate. We have innovation meetings where we're trying to understand how are we going to do things differently. I have people on my team who don't even touch LinkedIn anymore. Don't even touch, and they're the highest performers. Absolute highest performers. LinkedIn is a wonderful tool. We all love it, right? It became the gold standard. Fine. But I have people on my team now that are really talking about innovative ways to attract and identify the best talent. And maybe they'll use LinkedIn to get the full name of the person and the company, but it stops there, right? They'll actually go out and do things other ways. And they're the highest volume recruiters I have. It's amazing. Right? Partnering with executives and HR business partners to drive process. It's another good day if I don't have to deal with process. I hate process. I hate flowcharts. It's just not me. I like looking at them as long as somebody else did them, right? So if they're the ones that are empowered to actually drive this, and they understand it, and they understand the value of it, then they can do the process work, and I can be freed up to have the strategic conversations with the executive leadership. Achieving hiring goals and forecast. And that's big, right? But it's up to me or them in partnership to be able to work with the organizations to understand what is your strategic hiring forecast. How often are we as talent acquisition leaders sitting back and waiting for those recs to roll in? We're just waiting. Okay, 20 open today. Oh, okay, we're getting 10% attrition in this group, so we can expect, X number over here, right? But how often are we really, really taking the lead and understanding the goals and the forecast of each organization that we support so we can see how they are staggered over the next 4 quarters, right? I'd say we do that pretty often, but I think that it is really important for us to look at those numbers, look at the growth plans, tie it back into the organization, talk to the organization, show them how they're performing to their forecast, and not have it be the leader of the organization every time. Have it be enabled at sort of that next layer down. So that next layer down then becomes a true partner. So how this may look in practice, okay? Then this is a may. I put it into 3 tiers. The first tier being the hiring manager partnership, right? You're going to have a BAM lead in charge of hiring manager partnerships, but they're not going to be the only people in charge of hiring manager partnerships. Recruiters are also responsible for hiring manager partnerships. So in this particular line here, BAM leads and recruiters operate in the same way. They are partnering with the organizations that they are responsible for. So every BAM leader is a recruiter. They're not just managing, right? Every BAM leader is a recruiter, full rec load, right? And then you have the recruiters and the coordinators and sourcers. I know sourcing is becoming kind of a controversial topic these days. How much do we need them? How much do we really grow a sourcing organization? Sourcer, it can be a researcher, it can be anything that enables the recruiting of the organization. But if you notice, BAM leader and recruiter are sort of the first piece. However, the moment you take a step up and you're talking about organizational heads, right? The people who may not have direct positions but are responsible for organizations under them or hiring managers under them, you're going to actually align that BAM leader to that director. Right? And that person is going to be the central point of contact for that director, and they're going to be able to handle all the senior business partner HR partnerships. So down here, you have HR business partner partnerships. But we have multiple levels of HR business partners at EMC. So I can't have the recruiter partnering with this one, and then this one, and then this one, right? They're going to be doing too much, right? But if I allow it, or if I stress it, where you have the BAM lead talking to the organizational heads, what are they doing? Right? So we're going back to that partnership expectation. They're providing a regular cadence of updates. They're understanding that business leaders forecast their goals. They're understanding how we as an organization are performing against those goals. They report to them on whether it's a monthly, a weekly, a bi-weekly basis, and they are actually being the proactive partner to that organization. We never want to have our hiring managers going to their directors and sharing a message about talent acquisition that we didn't know in advance. That is dangerous. That's when we're playing fire drill, right? Recruiting's not giving us enough good candidates. How often do we hear that? We hear that all the time. We're not getting enough candidates, not enough quality candidates. The volume's down, the quality's down. We see a bunch of people. Everybody we hire comes from employee referrals, right? We're having to spend too much money on agencies, that sort of stuff. Right? I think you have a solution for that agency problem, right? Don't you? Oh, okay. Anyway, and then you have the division heads, the SVPs, the Senior Director Plus, HR Business Partner Partnerships, reporting, escalations, and strategic planning. The one thing you will notice is when I get involved. If I'm building the organization the right way, right? If I have enough strength and power in my organization and partnership in my organization, I don't get involved until we're up here with the division heads. My BAM leads are capable and responsible for managing the partnerships from the hiring manager level all the way through the executive level. We partner at the executive level because they'll often have data that I don't have. I mean, I'm very close to my organization. I know what's going on, know the challenges they have, but I may not have every little nitty-gritty piece. So if I have to go in with an executive leader, I'll make sure my BAM lead comes with me, or at least they inform me of what's going on so I can have the conversation with them, right? But the BAM lead is going to be responsible for that entire chain, at least understanding it. This results in an org that is scalable, right? We're aligning TA leads to all functional organizations, and we can ramp up and ramp down at a moment's notice. That is the beauty of this model. The BAM leads are always employees, always, 100% of the time, they're employees. They're employees that we invest in. They're employees that are capable of being leaders. I have recruiters on my team that I would never make a BAM lead, but they're amazing. I would never get rid of them either, right? They're the ones who are just pounding out those positions, but I would never make them a BAM lead because they're not capable of having consistent high-level conversations with key executives that I'm comfortable, that I can just send them in and I know what the message is going to be, and I know that they're capable of doing this. You really have to be careful on who you put as the BAM lead, right? But it's scalable because once you have that person in place and you're confident that that person is going to be a good long-term resource for that organization, you can build under them. You can build under them, right? I actually am right now in sort of a constricted mode at EMC, right? We're going through the Dell acquisition. We just have fewer positions to work on. And so now my team consists entirely, with one exception, entirely of BAM leads, right? But the business has seen zero change in their partnership model. Zero change. The recruiter may change, but they already know the BAM lead. So the BAM lead's going into those meetings just as they have before. And that partnership is continuing. And the moment we have an increase in activity, we hire under that person. Boom. No burn and churn. The perception is that we have a stable, scalable organization. It's beautiful. Like my blinky headlight, I worked a long time to figure that one out. I don't know. It was an hour. I swear to God. I was like, how do I make a blinky headlight? Want to go back? We'll see it again. Here we go. All right, there we go. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. That was, I never want to do that again. All right, full cycle recruiters assigned to TA leads, right? So we have the full cycle recruiters actually assigned in to the TA leads, and we create a technical workhorse, right? The BAM leads have to understand the technical ins and outs of the organizations that they're responsible for. They're the ones who have to partner with the organization that really have to get under the skin of their managers to understand how the organization works. A true BAM lead is not just a great recruiter, they're a great partner, and a great partner understands how to partner, right? How to build that relationship where the organization trusts them to understand their unique business challenges, right? Headhunting, passive candidate research, these are all things that are enabled when you have this model. Customer focus. I was trying to make the hands go up and down like they're shaking. Couldn't figure it out. It just became a nightmare. So I apologize for that. I really wanted to have that. But anyways, recruiting, reporting, partnership, resource management, having a global view and strategically enabled. I have this TV that I bought. I bought it like 10 years ago. And it said Wi-Fi enabled. I was so excited. Bought this TV, put it in my house. I'm trying to connect to Wi-Fi. And it's saying it can't connect to Wi-Fi, right? No, it's Wi-Fi enabled. If you go buy this other little thing, plug it in for $50, then you get Wi-Fi. So not quite the same thing here, but we are strategically enabled at this point, right? When I say that, what we've done is we're building that foundation where we can then start to have the bigger conversations, right? If your foundation is broken, all the managers want to talk about is why things are broken over here, why I have a burn and churn of recruiters. The moment you can move the conversation away from the burn and churn and the tactical stuff that's not working, the process that's broken, the bad candidates that are coming through, the moment you can move that conversation sideways away from that, that's when you're strategically enabled. Low allocation number. We're an allocation model at EMC, so low allocation, meaning that because we are such a powerhouse internally, we can actually fill all the positions. We have very low agency use. Not that agencies are bad. I know this is a conference where we're talking about how do we better utilize agencies. That's wonderful. And EMC does use agencies on occasion, so having this sort of partnership I think is important. But when you build that strong model, you're actually lowering your costs, and you can give superior support. Scalable. Right? Partnership begets trust. Trust begets innovation. I'm going to not read this, but you can read it if you want, and I talk to you about it afterwards. So one of the things that soon after launching the BAM model, the organization actually came to me and they said, hey, you really have a good tie on what's going on in the business, right? Your organization seems to really understand what we're doing. We need to know, we have 4 locations that we're trying to figure out what is the best location to put an engineering group. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is awesome. They're asking me for advice about where to put an engineering organization geographically. All right? They seeded me with some, we have existing locations in these 4 places, but can you help us? I said, well, absolutely we can. Right? So we started doing analysis, started looking at the organizations. We looked at the schools that were there. We looked at the competition that was there. We looked at the existing population. We looked at attrition rates. We looked at what sort of level of positions are we hiring and what sort of level of positions do they need. We put all that together, packaged it up, gave it to the organization, not really expecting anything, except a month and a half later, they decided to open up a whole engineering center based on one of our recommendations. It was awesome. It was empowering. It felt good. Right? So then they said, I have 10 minutes. I want 12. No, I'm kidding. I just got a weird look. He's like, oh, no. So they came to us and they said, hey, we need help, right? And so we actually then put one of our, a temporary BAM leader. I actually didn't have a BAM leader at that time to put in that because I had been busy, but I decided I'm going to try out one of our people as a BAM leader, talk to her, said this is the expectation, this is what you need to do, and this is how a BAM leader works. We're going to try you out, and we're going to give you this 30-position project in Burlington, Canada. And we want you to fill these positions. Now, she's in North Carolina, right? So geographically, completely different area, but she took on the project. It was done in 2 months, like done. Because she partnered so well with that organization, we gave her resources, kicked out the roadblocks, and she was able to fill it. Now she's back to being a recruiter under another BAM leader. But she did an amazing job, right? So it's deceptively simple and endlessly complex. It really, really is. And I'm not talking rocket science here. Everybody here probably has a version of what I'm talking about in their own companies. But it really is powerful when you do it right. Example 2. Notice there's nothing there. It happened yesterday. I didn't have time to type it up, so I thought I'd just talk it through really quickly. So this one is small, but it really, really excited me when it happened. So I had one of my BAM leaders come to me. It was just we were having a one-on-one, and she's telling me that she had a manager, a director, come to her and say, I am concerned about the diversity in my organization, that I do not feel like I have strong diversity in my organization. Point in case, I have a manager who is only hiring people who look like him. Okay? Now, we don't have any concrete anything to say this is actually happening other than the population of the organization, right? So my mind immediately goes to problem solving. What are we going to do? How are we going to address this problem? And I asked her, and she said, oh, I've already taken care of it. What? What did you do? And she said, here are the things I did. I went through and I talked to the director, I talked to the hiring manager. What we did is we started setting up. So she's telling me something now that had happened a month ago, right? Maybe bad on me for not knowing what's going on, but wow, right? She said, we set up person of like interviews. So what we did is we actually went into the organization and we found people who were female. We found people that were different ethnicity than the hiring manager. And we made them part of the interview panel, encouraging people to look beyond the scope of their own job. It was a little bit of a tough conversation with the hiring manager. She dealt with that too. Or the director, she dealt with that too. Right? We have 5 interviews set up now with diverse candidates, in addition to a couple others. And it feels great. Because the person that we put in charge of this project felt empowered to handle this pretty complicated issue by themselves. And they came to me, talked to me. She did nothing wrong. She did everything right. It was beautiful. And it made me feel proud that she felt empowered to be able to do something like that and not have to say, hey, Tom, how do we solve this problem? Or how do we address this potential problem? Right? It's not a huge example, but it's something I personally really was proud of. Benefits of the BAM model. We're almost done, folks. Focus point of contact is a sort of a wrap-up. Focus point of contact for clients. Focus point of contact for HR business partners. Consistent team alignment, right? Aligning it to the organization consistently. Burn and churn, reduced. Consistent reporting. You enable each business, a BAM leader, to be able to provide certain data to the organization. Actually created dashboards, which is, everybody talks about dashboards. I have one. It's a beautiful thing. I have an example of it in a couple slides. I just put a few things in there that we do. Scalability, right? The accordion, up and down. Accountability. I know exactly who is responsible for each organization. I know exactly what they're responsible for. I know exactly what they are expected to do. And they're doing a great job. Team advancement. The moment you make somebody a leader, or the moment you give people leadership responsibilities, those are the people that you're testing for your next management positions. Self-propelled machine. It becomes an organization that not just focuses on a bunch of recruiters and then a supervisor and a manager. You're actually building leadership into the recruiting function, and then that person can grow up through the organization. And then when you do all this, you become a strategic talent advisor, talent partner. And a couple auxiliary things. These are just things, I'm not going to go into this, but this is my dashboard. I do this daily. I have a template. I can pull this information daily, and it pops into this. Beautiful. Give this to all. I can look at India, break that out, daily dashboards. This is LinkedIn data. So LinkedIn does some great stuff, right? We love LinkedIn, right? They gave us some metrics on talent migration, where people geographically are moving from. These are the sort of data sets I'm going to empower my BAM leaders with. Right? I'm going to give them this information so when they're kicking off their first conversation with a new executive hiring a ton of software engineers, this sort of information is very interesting to them. Right? They may not pull it out, but they're going to have it in their back pocket. Understanding geographies, where the talent markets are, and then this is my support structure. Don't look at it too much. Don't try to steal all my people, right? I didn't change all the names. But if you take a look at it, you got the level 1, level 2, and level 3. So it's basically what I talked about earlier. Level 1, level 2 org owner, and level 3. And you can see that I'm aligned to all the SVPs. You got level 2 leaders, and there's a lot of duplicates, right? But I can tell you, the COO organization, go to this person. This gives you just an idea of how I think, right? How I organize myself. And anytime I need to know exactly who's responsible, what head to roll, this is what I go to.
How many directors or HRBPs is the BAM responsible for partnering with?
So you can take a look at the data here. So we actually have business partners on here. So you can see, as an example, I've broken it out by product groups and non-product groups. I had one person responsible for all the non-product groups. And they had quite a number of business partners to deal with. But 1, 2, 3, right? 3 business partners in this particular case. The moment it becomes a bit unmanageable, then you make some adjustments, right? At any time, this organization right here could get 30 more positions, and boom, that BAM leader can't handle that. But what we can do is that BAM leader can maybe be responsible to the COO himself, and then we build under that person. So we can scale up over here on the level 3 support, right, and keep that BAM leader in place. If it becomes too unmanageable, of course you're going to adjust. But the business partners, somewhere between 3 to 5 is kind of where we've been staying.
Do you have any specific metrics that you're using to prove that the org structure is working?
Yes, we have started, and it's more so on the customer sats, right? So we're looking very hard at the customer satisfaction numbers, and they have been steadily increasing for the 1 year I've been there now. I can't take all the credit, right? But they have been increasing, and the fill ratios have actually been dropping slightly. So we've been actually seeing a decrease in the average number of days or the median number of days to fill a position, right? So that has decreased. So it's mainly an account management thing that we're focused on, right? One of the earliest lessons I learned in talent acquisition was managers don't freaking care where the candidate comes from. They just want the position filled. That was a very hard lesson I learned very early in my career. And so we more focus on account management, and that's harder to track. But we have certain things we look at.
Thank you. Is the BAM considered, I guess, a promotion for a senior level recruiter? Is it baked into your leveling within your team?
So not yet. That is a beautiful question, because that, if we could actually create its own level and make it a kind of a stepping stone into management, that would be a beautiful thing. Not every BAM leader becomes a manager, right? I have people who are BAM leaders who never want to be managers. But if I want to build a manager, that's where they go first. So we don't have a set level. And we actually are not big enough to have the team's relatively small. At its highest, I think we're at 15, right, for the groups I support. But good question, and if we grow and the teams get bigger, that would be something that we would definitely want to look at, but thank you.
I'm wondering what the learning curve is for a BAM. So are these always people that you either promote or allocate into who know the organization already, or are you capable in this model of bringing someone in externally who could step in that role?
Great question. So yes, absolutely, you can bring in somebody externally. It's more difficult, right? Because you like people who have already proven they can work with your executive leadership, right? Because every executive leader is a little bit different, right? And sometimes they have nuances, and some person can come in, they're amazing, you interviewed them, and suddenly butting heads with the top director in the group. So it's always best, in my opinion, to take recruiters who are regular full-time. It has to be regular full-time. You can't have contractors cycling in and out as BAM leaders. That would break the model so fast. But if you can promote from within or grow from within, I feel that's the best approach. But I've actually hired outside BAM leaders, and they've done amazing work. Sometimes little minor adjustments have to be made. So yes, it just comes to your amazing talent acquisition recruiting skills to find the people who actually fit. Any other questions? All right, folks, thank you so much. I really appreciate you listening.